Chosen one, today is Wednesday. Not a Wednesday that was promised to you at some distant point in the future, not a Wednesday you have been waiting for, in theory, but this one. The one in which you woke up and somehow, through a sequence of decisions you may not have fully tracked, arrived here. That is not a small thing. That is not coincidence arranged by the indifferent workings of an unaware universe. Something specific, aligned to bring you to this exact message, on this exact day, and the reason matters more than you currently understand. A new version of you begins today, not next week, not at the end of this month, not when circumstances become more favorable or when the evidence finally arrives that you have been waiting for. Today, this Wednesday, and by the time this message reaches its final word, you are going to understand why that statement is not empty encouragement. You are going to see what this day is actually marking. You are going to see what has been prepared for you, what is being unlocked in you right now, and what the person who emerges from this Wednesday was always designed to look like. There have been people throughout history who had a specific day, a day that divided their entire life into before and after, and those people almost always had something in common with each other. They did not choose the day. The day was assigned to them. The oil arrived when the oil was ready. The door opened when the foundation was finished. And often, those people did not feel ready. Often, they were found in fields instead of palaces. Often, the day arrived while they were still in the middle of the ordinary. If you are here on this Wednesday, something has already been decided about you. Something is already in motion. All that remains is for you to receive what is already moving toward you. There is a reason you have been feeling what you have been feeling lately. And when I say lately, I do not mean only this week. I mean the extended stretch of time that has been building toward this Wednesday. The season that has felt simultaneously too long and, now in retrospect, exactly as long as it needed to be. The season that you could not fully explain to others, that you sometimes could not fully explain to yourself, but that you have been living inside of with a kind of quiet faithfulness that most people would not have been capable of sustaining. Let me name what you have been carrying, not in general terms, but specifically. The first thing is a shift that happened without announcement. Something changed in you, and the change arrived before you had words for it, or permission for it, or any external validation that it was real. The things that used to satisfy you stopped satisfying you. The routines that used to feel like home started feeling like a costume. The conversations you used to enter easily now cost you something to sustain. The circle of people you used to feel settled among started feeling like a circle you had quietly grown past. And from the outside, you understand, nothing appeared to be wrong. The life looked the same. The schedule looked the same. But inside, something had shifted. Something had quietly refused to go back to the way it was. You tried to shake it. You tried to remind yourself of the good things, to reframe the discontent as ingratitude, to return to the version of yourself that was content with what used to be enough. But it did not work, not because you were broken, because that version of you was finished, the way a cocoon is finished, the way winter is finished, when the pressure of spring becomes irresistible. Something inside you had grown larger than the container that had been holding it, and no amount of effort to make it fit again was going to succeed. What you called restlessness, what the people around you may have called dissatisfaction, what you sometimes worried was evidence of something wrong with you, was not any of those things. It was your inner architecture recalibrating. It was the divine design inside of you refusing to accept a version of your life that was always too small for what you were built to carry. The restlessness was not the problem. The restlessness was the signal. The signal that the container had to change, not the content. And that signal has been building for a long time toward this Wednesday. The second thing you have been carrying is a tiredness that does not come from your body. You know the kind. You have slept and woken, still carrying it. You have rested and found the weight waiting on the other side of the rest. It has been in your bones, in the particular way that a weight that is not physical settles into the places where physical rest cannot reach. Not the tiredness of someone who has not slept enough, but the tiredness of someone who has been performing a version of themselves that does not match who they are actually becoming. There is a cost to maintaining an identity that has been outgrown, a specific and substantial energetic cost that no amount of coffee or motivation or positive thinking fully offsets. When you are living from the old container while the new one is pressing against it from the inside, the friction requires energy. Constant, exhausting, invisible energy. Energy that was never available for the things that mattered because it was all being spent on maintenance. What you have been calling exhaustion is your system transitioning. The new you requires a different kind of fuel. The old way of operating, the grinding, the managing, the constant monitoring of how you appear to others, the performance of capability when you were barely standing. Those patterns cost more than living from your actual truth ever will. The tiredness you have been feeling is not a warning that you cannot handle what is coming. It is a release of what you have been carrying that was never yours to carry in the first place. And this Wednesday, the weight is authorized to leave. The third thing is harder to explain, but you will recognize it immediately. The timing of things recently has been unusual. Not dramatic in a way that is easy to point to, but unusual in a way you have noticed. Meetings that arrived at exactly the right moment. Words spoken by strangers that answered questions you had been asking in private. Books opening to pages that held what you needed. Conversations that picked up precisely where your interior monologue had left off. Small redirections that turned out to contain large outcomes. A sequence of events that, when viewed together, does not feel like chance, that feels like something or someone has been lining things up. And the culmination of that lining up is this Wednesday. What you have been interpreting as coincidence is not coincidence in the sense of two things meeting by chance. It is the convergence of a single intention expressing itself through multiple forms, pointing you toward a single destination. The destination is this day. The destination is this message. The destination is the version of you that begins on this side of today. You have not been wandering. You have been walked toward a door, and the door has a name on it. The door has your name on it. The fourth thing you have been carrying is a hunger, distinct from ambition, not the urgent wanting more of someone driven by fear of lack. A different kind, a creative, reaching, burning kind of hunger. The sense that there is something inside you that has not yet found its full expression, something that wants to be built, to be spoken, to be given. You feel it most clearly in moments of stillness, in the quiet between tasks, in those 2 or 3 minutes before sleep when the noise of the day has finally quieted and what is real has room to surface. There is a voice in that space, and it does not sound defeated. It does not sound resigned. It sounds like the beginning of something that has been waiting a long time to begin. That hunger is not a problem to be managed or a need to be dismissed. That hunger is the new you making itself known. That hunger is the signal that the season of concealment is ending and the season of expression is opening. That hunger has been there for a long time. And the reason it has not faded is not because you have been failing to address it. It is because it belongs to you. It is the signature of the calling that was placed in you before you understood what calling meant. And this Wednesday, that hunger finally has a direction. The fifth thing is a sensitivity you may have quietly classified as a flaw, a depth of feeling that the world around you does not always honor or even acknowledge. You feel what is in a room before the room speaks. You sense when something is wrong before the evidence arrives. You absorb the emotional weight of situations and carry it longer than most people carry their own weight. You have been told, directly or indirectly, that you feel too much, that you need to toughen up, that the sensitivity is something to be overcome rather than something to be leveraged. What if the sensitivity was never a flaw? What if it was the sensory equipment of someone built for a specific kind of purpose? The people who will one day carry what you carry on their behalf. The people you will speak for, create for, serve, lead into clarity. They will not call your sensitivity a weakness, a co. They will call it presence. They will call it discernment. They will call it the kind of knowing that can only belong to someone who has been willing to remain open when every instinct toward self-protection was telling them to close. Your depth of feeling is not the evidence that you are too fragile for what is coming. It is the evidence that you were built precisely for it. And here is something that has been waiting at the edge of this message since these words began. There is a pathway back to the mind you carried when you were young, that clear, unobstructed, effortless intelligence that absorbed everything, that saw patterns in the world before the world had named them, that created without asking permission, that learned without fear of being wrong. A small group of researchers, led by a neurologist in New York who has spent more than 20 years studying exactly this problem, found something that sounds almost too clean when you first hear it. A way to bring back what was taken from you at the neural level, not through effort, not through years of practice, not through any question in your awareness. What if the fog that has settled over your thinking is not who you are? What if the slow, effortful feeling of your mind in recent years is not your natural operating state? What if something was taken from you, and this Wednesday is the day it begins to come back? There is a specific quality to the Wednesday you are in right now that deserves to be held carefully before the message moves forward. It is the quality of a threshold. Every threshold looks ordinary from the outside. It is simply the place where the floor of one room meets the floor of the next. But you know the difference between standing inside a room that used to fit you and standing at the point where something else becomes possible. You have been standing at that point for a while now. You may not have had a name for it. You may have called it waiting, or called it being stuck, or called it the in-between place that did not feel like progress and did not feel like retreat. But it was a threshold. And this Wednesday is the day you cross it. The people who do not understand what you are in the middle of will continue to look at the external circumstances and see little evidence of the shift you are experiencing on the inside. That is all right. The shift is not required to be visible from the outside before it is real on the inside. The oil was poured on David in a specific moment, in a specific room, in front of specific witnesses. But the king that was being made in the field was already fully real before any of those witnesses could see it. What you are carrying into this Wednesday is already real. The expression of it will follow. The expression always follows the formation, once the formation is finished. Let me be more specific about what this Wednesday is actually marking, because it is not a general thing. It is not a vague, spiritual moment designed to make you feel better for a few hours before the ordinary returns. It is the specific close of a specific season, the season that was built around the hiddenness, the season that had protection as its function, the season that operated under the principle of not yet, of almost, of hold on, of wait for what is being prepared to become ready. That season has a close date, and the close date is today. How do you know this? Not because of a feeling, not because of an emotional peak in a message you encountered on a Wednesday morning, because of the evidence of the formation itself. Because of the specific qualities that have appeared in you through the years of the wilderness, that could not have been built in a shorter season or a more comfortable one, because of the depth that is now present in you that was not there before the desert, because of the rootedness that the testing installed, because of the capacity for silence that the long seasons of no answer produced. These things are not metaphors. They are the specific outputs of a specific process. And when the process produces what it was designed to produce, the process is complete. The wilderness is complete in you. The formation is complete. What comes now is something different. What comes now is this Wednesday, and everything it is beginning. The signs you have been living with are not random. They do not arrive in a vacuum. They are the specific markers of a person standing at the close of one season and the threshold of another. And I want to return to two of them more specifically before moving further, because they deserve more than the first description. The sign of the changed satisfaction, the way the old things stopped filling what used to be filled by them. I want to be honest about what this actually costs. It does not arrive with a clean sense of spiritual advancement. It arrives with grief, with confusion, with the uncomfortable experience of finding yourself unable to feel at home in a life that from the outside appears to be going perfectly adequately. The people around you may have noticed your quietness in moments where you used to engage, the slight pulling back, the subtle absence of enthusiasm for things that used to produce enthusiasm. They may have asked you if something is wrong, and you may have said no, because there is nothing concretely wrong, because the answer is more complex than the question the asking person was actually able to hold. What is wrong is that you have grown past the container, and growing past a container before the new one is fully built feels like being between sizes. Nothing fits. The old things are too small. The new things are not yet in the wardrobe. You are standing in the gap between what was and what is becoming, and the gap is real, and it has a texture that is neither the texture of the old season nor the texture of what is coming. The gap is what you have been living in, and the close of the gap is this Wednesday. The sign of the sensitivity also deserves a fuller accounting, because the world has spent considerable effort convincing people built with this specific equipment that the equipment is a defect. The language of too sensitive, too emotional, too much, too intense, as if the capacity to feel deeply were a bug rather than a feature, as if the people who experience the world at this depth were failed versions of the people who experience it more shallowly. Here is what the sensitivity actually is. It is the specific equipment of someone who will be required to hold other people in places that require genuine holding, not the holding of someone who is managing from a distance. The actual holding, the standing with, the being present in the fullness of another experience of this person without flinching or minimizing or redirecting to a more comfortable topic. That kind of holding requires the capacity to feel deeply. It requires a nervous system that is not defended against the weight of human experience. It requires someone who has themselves been in the depths, who knows the topography of the hard places, who can accompany others through them because they have not avoided them. You have been in the depths. The formation season required it. And the depth of your own experience, which you may have sometimes wished had been shallower, is now the specific qualification that makes you suited for the assignment. The very thing that has been hard about you, from the evaluative perspective of the world perspective, is the very thing that makes you specifically equipped. The sensitivity is not something to be managed before you can be useful. The sensitivity is the gift through which the usefulness arrives. The reason this Wednesday marks the beginning of the new you is not because something is about to be added to your life that was previously absent. It is because something has been built inside you through the years of the formation season that you have not yet given yourself full permission to live from. The anointing was poured before the coronation. The depth was formed before the exposure. And what this day is marking is not the beginning of the preparation, it is the end of it. Let me tell you about David, not the king, not the celebrated figure with the harp and the psalms and the armor that history remembers. I want to tell you about the shepherd. Before the palace, before the throne, before the armor that did not fit him because his battles had always been fought differently than anyone expected, there was a field. There was a boy no one invited to the ceremony. When the prophet Samuel came to the house of Jesse to anoint the next king of Israel, the ceremony was arranged without David in the room. All the older brothers were gathered, the impressive ones, the tall ones, the ones who looked the part. And Samuel looked at them one by one, each time receiving the same quiet inner knowing. Not this one, not this one, not this one. And finally, Samuel asked Jesse if he had any other sons. And someone remembered the youngest, the small one, the one in the field. What nobody saw in that moment was that the field was exactly where the king was being made. The lions that David fought out there with no audience, no recognition, no reward beyond the protection of a flock that did not belong to him. The sleepless nights he spent watching sheep on cold hills where no human voice affirmed the worth of what he was doing. The music he wrote to the open sky when no ear but God's could hear it. The faithfulness he practiced when faithfulness had no witness. That was not wasted time. That was not the unfortunate delay of a destiny that should have arrived sooner. That was the formation of a ruler who would be trusted precisely because the wilderness had built into him what no court could have taught. And it happened in silence. It happened in obscurity. It happened in a place that no one with ambition would have chosen for themselves. Where were you when the formation was happening in you? In the place that no one applauded, in the season that no one fully understood, in the work that no one honored with ceremony, in the silence where your character was being built without your knowledge or your full consent, in the wilderness that felt like abandonment and was actually architecture, the architecture of a specific kind of person, the architecture of the new you. There are three things the wilderness was doing in you while you were simply trying to survive it. The first was building a knowledge that cannot be transferred through instruction. Silence, sustained silence, the kind that stretches over months and years rather than minutes, builds a different kind of knowing, the kind that lives below the level of information, the kind that recognizes the true thing before the evidence for the true thing has arrived, the kind that does not require an authority to validate it because it is itself a form of authority. You were being developed in the quiet, not despite it. The long seasons of not knowing what was happening, of not having language for what you were in the middle of learning to trust something you could not fully see, that was not a failure to advance. That was the graduate program of the interior life, and you completed it in the field. The second thing the wilderness was doing was surgical in a way that only becomes visible in retrospect. It stripped away what was never yours. The relationships that could not survive the pressure of your growth were not your people, and the pressure revealed that with a precision no amount of conversation could have achieved. The version of success you were chasing before the silence descended was not actually what you wanted at depth. It was what you had been taught to want, what the expectations of others had layered over your actual calling until you could no longer distinguish between the two. The wilderness had a precision. It removed, one by one, the things that did not belong to the new you, even when every single removal felt like a loss that you were not equipped to absorb. The things that left you in the formation season were not failures. They were not evidence that you were doing something wrong. They were the wilderness making room for what was always supposed to be there. The crowded house of Jesse, full of impressive options, had to be emptied before the right one could be seen. And the emptying in your life, the people who left, the seasons that closed, the versions of yourself that had to be released, that was not abandonment by God. That was preparation by God, preparation that required a landscape cleared enough for the new you to finally have room to stand. The third thing the wilderness was doing was the one that takes the longest to accept. It was forming a depth inside you that sudden success could never have created. The people who receive everything early, the ones who never walked through a sustained desert season, they often cannot hold what they are given, not because they are bad or undeserving, because the capacity to hold something large is built through the very thing that makes large capacity feel expensive: endurance, resistance, the long practice of trusting without evidence, faithfulness without applause. That depth is what you have now. That depth is the structural difference between you and the version of yourself that entered the wilderness. And it is what the new you carries out of this Wednesday and into everything that follows. When David was finally brought in from the field, when he walked into the room where the oil had been waiting, nothing was added to him. The gifts were already there. The faithfulness had been proven. The courage had been tested in the dark. The music had been written. All that changed was the unveiling. The season of hiddenness ended. The season of expression began. The anointing was not the installation of something new. It was the recognition of what had been present all along. This Wednesday is your oil day. In the original Greek of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, there is a word that most translations simply render as the word new. The old has passed away and the new has come. But the word chosen in the original language is kainos. Kainos does not mean new the way a new day follows an old one. The way newer is simply a later version of the same thing. Kainos means new in kind, unprecedented, unquote. Something that did not exist before in that form. It is the word used in Revelation for the new heaven and the new earth, not a refurbished version of the old one, a new thing that did not exist before. The new Jerusalem is not a renovated Jerusalem. It is kainos. The new you that begins this Wednesday is kainos, not a better edition of the old you, not a healed, optimized, upgraded version of what came before, a different kind of human entirely. A version of you that the world has not seen because the formation season that built it has not ended until now. And the world that receives the kainos version of you will not be receiving a continuation. It will be receiving a beginning. Breathe once, just once. Do not reach for anything in this moment. Do not try to process or categorize or evaluate what has already been said. Just breathe. You are in a specific place on this Wednesday, in a specific room or space, with the specific weight of a specific life. And you are still here, still listening, still willing to be reached. Every version of you that gave up before this Wednesday, that stopped trusting, that closed down instead of remaining open, did not make it to this day. But you did. Whatever has kept you moving through the darkness, through the desert, through the days that had no clear explanation, it has been faithful enough to bring you to this exact message on this exact Wednesday. And that is not nothing. There is something important to understand about the formation season that is easy to miss from the inside of it. The wilderness is not primarily about what it removes, it is about what it installs. The removals are painful, and they are real, and they are necessary. But the removals are instrumental. They make room. The primary work of the wilderness is the installation of something that cannot be installed through comfort, through ease, through continuous forward movement, through the uninterrupted experience of favor and recognition and visible progress. What it installs is trust that has no evidence requirement. This is the specific quality that separates the people who come through the wilderness with something from the people who come through it simply relieved to be out. Trust that does not require evidence is not a feeling. It is a posture that was developed slowly and painfully through the repeated experience of trusting when evidence was absent and finding that the thing being trusted did not abandon you, even when it did not immediately answer you, that posture is now part of your structure. The formation season installed it into your bones, and the new season that begins this Wednesday will require it at levels that the previous season could not have prepared you for. Had the previous season been shorter or easier or more continuously rewarding. What David demonstrates about the threshold moment is also worth examining more carefully. The day the prophet Samuel arrived at the house of Jesse was not a day David chose. He did not arrange his own anointing. He did not position himself for visibility. He did not work the room or manage his image, or create the conditions for the recognition that was coming. He was in the field. He was doing the thing in front of him, faithfully, without a ceremony, without a crowd, without any indication that the day would be different from every other day he had spent with the sheep, on the cold hills, under the open sky. The day arrived not because he manufactured it, but because the preparation it required was finally complete. The preparation was complete in him, the willingness to fight the lion, which is to say the willingness to face the thing that should have been too big for him, and to face it without backing down, without waiting for someone larger or better equipped or more officially authorized to handle it. That willingness was installed in the field. The courage to stand in front of the giant would later become legendary. But it was not installed in the battle with the giant. It was installed in the battles nobody saw, in the field, in the silence, in the place where the only audience was God, and the outcome was never going to make it into a story that anyone would tell. That is the quality that the Wednesday season requires. Not the courage of the public battle, though that will come. The courage of the private faithfulness. The courage to continue in the field when the palace is not yet visible. And the reason that particular courage is developed in the wilderness and not in easier seasons is that easier seasons do not require it. Easier seasons reward you for different things. They reward productivity and output and momentum and performance. None of those things are bad, but none of them build what the wilderness builds. And what the wilderness builds is what the new season is designed to operate from. There is also something that the kainos word says about this specific Wednesday that extends beyond the Greek etymology. Kainos, in the context of creation and new seasons, carries with it the implication of something that was not possible before. Not just something that did not happen before, something that was structurally impossible before the conditions for it existed. The new heavens and the new earth that the book of Revelation describes as kainos are not a renovation of the existing ones. They require the passing away of the existing ones. The new you that begins this Wednesday is not possible in the context of the old season, because the old season did not contain the structural requirements for the new identity. The wilderness was not a detour from the path to the new you. The wilderness was the structural requirement for the new you to be possible at all. This means that every day of the formation season, every day that felt like delay, every night that felt like nothing was happening, every morning that required you to choose faithfulness without evidence, was not time that could have been saved. It was not an inefficiency in a process that could have been streamlined. It was the exact process, the exact amount, the exact duration that produced the exact depth that the new season requires. And to be angry at the length of the formation is, in some meaningful sense, to be angry at the depth of what was being prepared. The length and the depth are the same thing measured differently. The longer the wilderness, the deeper the roots. And the new you has very deep roots. Rest here for a moment. You have been carrying something through this message that the message itself has been asking you to hold, to examine, to receive, and to release in some measure. That kind of engagement costs something. The attention it requires, the honesty it demands, the willingness to be reached by something real rather than to manage it at a distance. That is not cheap work. It is the work of the formation season extended into the present moment. And before the message continues, you deserve a moment simply to be, not to achieve anything, not to receive another revelation, just to be present in this specific space on this specific Wednesday. The truth that has been spoken is not going anywhere. It will be there when the breath is done. But the breath matters, and you are allowed to take it. The formation season also built something in you that is harder to describe than courage or trust or depth. It built a specific relationship to waiting that is different from resignation. Resignation is the posture of someone who stopped believing anything would change. The posture you developed in the wilderness is not resignation. It is something more active than that. It is the posture of someone who is genuinely uncertain about the timing, but genuinely unshaken in the direction. You do not know exactly when the doors will open, but you know which direction you are facing. You know which way the calling points. You know, beneath the surface uncertainty, that you are not lost. You are in the field, doing the thing in front of you, and the day is coming. That posture, the active not yet, is what separates the ones who come through the wilderness ready for the new season from the ones who come through it simply relieved to be out. Relief is valid, but the new season does not run primarily on relief. It runs on the posture you developed in the desert, the quiet, unshakable, not waiting passively, but not forcing either orientation toward the direction you know is yours. The new you carries that orientation into everything that follows this Wednesday. The new you that emerges from this Wednesday does not arrive into a vacuum. It arrives into a specific context. 3 specific areas of your life are already shifting, whether or not you have had language for the shifts. And naming them is the beginning of understanding them. The first area is your relationships. What is shifting is not primarily about who enters or exits your relational world, though that will happen. What is shifting is who you are inside the relationships you carry. The new you relates from a different internal position than the old one did. The old you frequently related from a place of unspoken need, from a need to be understood, validated, included, chosen. Not because something was wrong with you, because you were carrying a wound that needed that input. The new you relates from a place of wholeness first, from a place of genuine offering rather than unspoken trading, from a place where the giving is clean because it is not secretly a request in disguise. What you will feel during this shift is real grief alongside real gratitude. Some of the relationships you have been holding close will change their position in your life quietly, without dramatic falling out, without a clear moment you can point to. They will simply become less central, and the grief of that is real and should be honored, not avoided, not talked yourself out of. But the grief is not the signal to go backward. The growth that changes the shape of your relational world is not something that can be undone without undoing the growth itself. And the growth is not optional in this season. What not to do in this relational shift is spend energy trying to explain yourself. The impulse will be strong. You will want to earn permission from the people who knew the old you to become the new one. You will want to justify the change, to make it acceptable to the people whose acceptance you have historically needed. The new you does not require that permission. The becoming is not subject to a committee vote. And the energy you spend trying to earn an approval that belongs to you freely is energy that belongs to the new season, not to the maintenance of the old one. What to trust is this. The people who are meant to be in the new season will recognize the new you without needing to be convinced of it. They will not require you to shrink yourself down to a size they find more manageable. They will not feel threatened by your becoming. They will feel something else entirely. They will feel like they have been waiting for this version of you, because some of them have been. The second area is your sense of purpose. What is shifting in this area is the source from which you operate. The old you often waited to feel ready, waited for the credentials to arrive, for the confidence to settle, for the circumstances to align, for the loudest possible inner confirmation before taking a single step in the direction of the actual calling. The new you does not operate on that waiting for readiness model. Not because readiness is irrelevant, but because what you have been through in the formation season has installed something in you that does not require the feeling of readiness to function. It is called trust, and it is the difference between a person who moves when they feel certain and a person who moves because they were called, regardless of how certainty feels in any given moment. What you will feel during this shift is exposure, moving from the safety of preparation into the vulnerability of actual expression will feel like stepping out of forest into open field. Suddenly visible in a way that the season of formation did not require. And the visibility will feel uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because the protective structure of hiddenness, the structure that served a real function in the formation season, is no longer the structure you are supposed to be living inside of. The discomfort of visibility is not the signal to retreat. It is the sensation of a door opening that has been closed for a long time. Walk through it. What not to do is mistake the exposure for danger. Danger has a different signature than growth. Danger closes things down, narrows options, produces fear that is intelligent and protective. Growth opens things up. Growth produces a kind of fear that feels like standing at the edge of something large, not like running from something threatening. What you are feeling in this season is more likely the second kind than the first. The new you learns to distinguish between them. What to trust is that the purpose inside you has a momentum of its own that predates your awareness of it. You do not have to manufacture it. You do not have to force it into existence through sheer will. You simply have to stop standing in the way of what is already trying to move through you. The purpose does not need your energy to exist. It needs your permission to be expressed. And this Wednesday, that permission is being given. The third area is provision. What is shifting in this area is the channel through which it arrives. The old model required a specific kind of effort, a specific kind of proving, a specific kind of grinding that was as much about demonstrating worth as it was about producing outcomes. The new you will discover that provision does not only arrive through the doors you have been trained to knock on loudest. Sometimes it comes through a door you did not know existed. Sometimes the breakthrough arrives from an angle that the old strategy would never have approached. What you will feel during this shift is uncertainty. Provision that does not follow the familiar formula requires a different kind of faith to receive. The temptation to run back to the known pattern will be real. The known pattern, even when it was exhausting, had the advantage of predictability. The new channel does not have that advantage yet. That is not a reason to close it. It is a reason to develop a tolerance for the discomfort of the new. What not to do is interpret the absence of familiar provision as the absence of provision altogether. When a river is being rerouted, there is a moment when the old bed appears dry and the new one has not yet become visible. That moment is not the signal that the water has disappeared. It is the signal that it is moving. Something is being rerouted in your financial and material life. That is not punishment. That is precision. The new channel is being prepared while the old one is being released. What to trust is that the one who aligned this Wednesday for you is not a God who brings you to the beginning of something new and then withdraws the supply. What is being built in you in this season has a provision structure that matches it. And the provision that matches the new you will look different from the provision that matched the old one. It will arrive differently, feel different, require different capacities to receive. But it will be sufficient. It will be more than sufficient. The breakthrough process has phases, and it matters enormously to know which phase you are actually in. Because mistaking one phase for another causes people to do the wrong thing at the wrong time, to push when the season requires stillness, to wait when the season requires movement. Phase 1 was concealment, the season when everything that was being built inside you was below the surface, invisible to the outside world and often invisible to yourself. The gifts were present but not yet expressed. The depth was being formed but had not yet found its full shape. The calling was real but had not yet been given the platform of its expression. You could not see what was happening. On many days, you could not prove to yourself that anything was happening. You could only trust, and often that trust was not easy or comfortable or accompanied by evidence. Phase 2 was preparation, the wilderness itself, the formation season, the stripping away and the building up happening simultaneously in a process that from the inside frequently looked more like loss than gain. The battles fought without an audience to count as credential, the faithfulness practiced without a reward structure that made it rational, the prayers offered into what often appeared to be silence. Phase 2 was long. It was not the brief transition between a comfortable season and a breakthrough season. It was a real and substantial season in its own right, and it is what made the new you structurally ready for what Phase 3 requires. Phase 3 begins today. Phase 3 is the Wednesday season. It is the end of the underground period and the beginning of the expression period. And the single most important thing to understand about Phase 3 is this: you do not have to work your way into it. You do not have to earn it through one more demonstration of patience or faithfulness or endurance. It has already been given. You are already standing inside of it. What this Wednesday is asking of you is not more effort. It is the willingness to receive what has already been prepared. The new you that emerges from Phase 3 operates from a different internal architecture in specific, practical, daily ways. It is worth naming them so you can recognize them when they arrive in the ordinary moments of the ordinary days that follow this Wednesday. The new you receives criticism differently. The old version absorbed criticism the way a wound absorbs infection. It went in and sat there, becoming information about worth, about validity, about whether the whole project of being you was justified. The new you receives criticism the way a trained navigator receives weather reports, data, some of it accurate and actionable, some of it a projection of another person, unexamined fear, some of it noise. The new you processes the distinction without collapsing into the question of what the criticism means about your value. Your value is not a variable, only your methods are. The new you handles silence differently. The old version experienced silence as an absence to be filled, an uncomfortable gap between the noise that felt like evidence of being alive. The new you has been trained in the field, in the wilderness, in the long seasons with no audience, to trust what comes in the quiet. Not every answer lives in the noise. The most important ones live in the silence. And the new you knows how to stay in the silence long enough to hear them. The new you moves toward what it was built for differently. The old version moved in fits and starts, motivated by fear as often as by calling, requiring the feeling of momentum before it could produce momentum. The new you moves with consistency, not with perfect confidence, not without the presence of doubt, but with consistency. Because the new you has been taught by the formation season that forward movement does not require certainty. It only requires the willingness to take a single step in the direction of the calling, regardless of how the step feels. The new you relates to time differently. The old version was haunted by the gap between where it was and where it thought it should be. by the years that seem to have been spent in the field when they could have been spent in the palace. The new you has learned the lesson that the wilderness teaches slowly and irreversibly. There is no wasted season. Every delay contained a development that the palace could not have provided. Every closed door protected something that an open door would have exposed too early. The timing is not behind. It has never been behind. It has been exact. Type, I see it in the comments below, if something in this message is landing in you on this Wednesday. Let those 3 words be your declaration that what is being spoken is being received. Not politely, not academically, actually received. And if this message is reaching you, if this Wednesday word is finding the real place in you, gently press the like on this message. Not for the sake of numbers, but so that someone else who has been walking through their own formation season, someone who does not yet know their Wednesday, has arrived, so this message can find them the way it found you. There is something I have not said yet, something this message has been building toward since the beginning. Before I show you what I am about to show you, and I will show you before this message ends, there is one more layer you need to understand about the person you are becoming on this Wednesday, because what comes next does not stop at the level of identity or calling or spiritual formation. It reaches into the actual architecture of your mind, the neural level, the biological substrate of the self you have been formed to be. And what I am about to tell you will explain something that years of spiritual practice, years of formation, years of faithfulness in the wilderness did not fully address. It will explain why the thinking has felt slower than it used to, why the clarity comes and goes instead of staying, why the mind that used to feel sharp and effortless in childhood has felt like it is operating behind a fog that no amount of effort fully clears. Stay with me, because this is the part that changes something specific. The practical shape of the blessing in the area of relationships also deserves a fuller description, because the relational dimension of the new season is one of the places where the most specific and most testable changes will appear in the ordinary fabric of daily life. The new you approaches conflict differently. The old version of you, particularly in the formation season, often carried conflict with a heaviness that did not match the specific weight of the individual disagreement. Because underneath the surface conflict, underneath the presenting disagreement about a specific thing, lived the accumulated weight of the uncertainty of the season. The wondering if you were doing the right thing, the wondering if you were becoming the right person, the wondering if the relationships you were investing in were the ones that would last. All of that background weight made the surface conflict cost more than it should have. The new you is not walking with that background weight. The background question has been answered. The formation is complete. The new you encounters conflict as what it actually is, which is almost always much smaller and more workable than the old version made it feel. The new you also gives differently. There is a specific liberation in moving from a giving that was, beneath its genuine generosity, a form of protection, giving as a way to be needed, giving as a way to maintain connection with people who might otherwise not choose you, giving as a way to produce the feeling of safety in relationships through making yourself indispensable. That giving was not entirely false. The generosity in it was real. But the architecture beneath it was fear-based. And the new you gives without that architecture. The giving of the new season is clean. It is the overflow of a full vessel rather than the offering of a person trying to fill someone else, so that the someone else will fill them back. That kind of giving is lighter. It is more free, and paradoxically, it produces more real and more lasting connection than the heavier version ever could. In the area of purpose, there is also a specific quality of the new season worth naming in practical terms. The new you will notice that the opportunities that align with the actual calling arrive with a different texture than the opportunities that are available but not assigned. Assigned opportunities have a quality of fit that unaligned opportunities do not. Aligned opportunities feel like being in the current of a river rather than paddling across it. There is still effort involved. The current does not do the work for you, but the direction of the effort is aligned with the direction of the movement, which means the effort produces something different, at a depth and a speed that the effort of misaligned activity does not produce. Part of what the new season will ask of you is the ability to say no to the opportunities that are available but not aligned, even when they are impressive, even when they come with the kind of validation that the formation season did not provide. The validation hunger that was built in the desert can make the new season treacherous if it is not acknowledged, because the new season will bring validation, and some of the validation will be attached to opportunities that are not your assignment. The ability to receive the validation and decline the opportunity is a specific capacity of the new you that the old you did not fully have. The old you needed the validation more than it could afford to decline the opportunity. The new you can distinguish between being seen and being called. The provision shift also has a practical dimension that is worth naming before the message moves on. One of the most disorienting experiences of the new season for people who have been deeply conditioned by the old models of provision is the experience of receiving. Not working, not producing, not performing, but receiving. Provision that arrives through a channel that requires no effort beyond openness. That can feel wrong to someone who has been trained to believe that nothing real arrives without being earned through the familiar forms of grinding effort. The new season will include both. It will include the meaningful work, the effort that belongs to the calling, the labor that is genuinely yours. But it will also include provision that arrives through channels that your effort did not open. And the ability to receive that without guilt, without suspicion, without the impulse to immediately earn it retroactively by adding labor to what was given freely, that is a specific spiritual capacity that the new season requires. The timeline of the breakthrough, the 3 phases of concealment and preparation and emergence, also has a quality worth adding. The 3 phases are not always clearly sequential in experience. They overlap. There were moments in the preparation phase when it felt like concealment was already ending. There were moments when the emergence seemed to be beginning before the preparation was complete. And then the preparation continued. This is not a failure of the process. This is the non-linear character of spiritual formation, which does not move on a predictable schedule the way a project timeline does. The phases are real. The sequence is real. But the experience of the sequence is not always clean. There are previews of the emergence season that arrive during the preparation season, tastes of the new identity that appear before the full expression of it. The previews you have had of who you are becoming, the moments when the new you appeared briefly in a conversation or a decision or a creative act or a moment of courage, those were real. They were not exceptions to who you are. They were glimpses of who you actually are in your full expression in the new season. And the new season, this Wednesday, is when those glimpses stop being the exception and start being the norm. There is one more practical teaching that belongs in this section before the message moves toward what needs to be addressed directly. The new you will encounter a specific temptation in the new season that the old you did not face in the same way. The temptation to prove the formation was worth it, to produce visible results quickly enough to justify the invisible years, to demonstrate the new identity at a pace and scale that would constitute retroactive evidence that the wilderness was not a waste, to make the new season earn the old one in the court of the opinions of other people. The new you is not equipped to resist that temptation through effort. The more you try to not prove it, the more the proving instinct resurfaces. What the new you does instead is root itself so deeply in the truth of what was built in the wilderness that the opinion of the court becomes genuinely less relevant. Not irrelevant in a performatively indifferent way. Actually, less relevant, because when you know what was built, when you can feel the rootedness of it, when you have access to the depth that the formation produced, the external validation, while still pleasant, is no longer the source. And a person who is operating from source rather than from the need for external confirmation of the source produces something that eventually produces its own evidence. The fruit comes, not because you forced it. Because the roots are deep enough now to produce it. That is the practical truth of the new season. The roots produce the fruit. The formation built the roots. The new you trusts the roots. And this Wednesday is the day the trust becomes operational. The obstacles section also has a layer that belongs to the full accounting of what stands between the old you and the new one. It is not only the internal story, not only the doubt and the guilt and the past identity. There is also a practical dimension to the transition that deserves honesty. The new you does not arrive with an automatic support structure. The people and environments that supported the old you, the ones that were designed for the container that is now being left, those environments will not automatically reshape themselves around the new version. Some of them will. Some of them will grow with you, but some of them will not. And the disorientation of moving through a season of emergence without the full backing of your previous support structure is real. It is not evidence that the emergence is wrong. It is evidence that the emergence is genuinely a new thing, a kainos thing, which, by definition, does not have pre-existing support structures built for it. What the new you learns in this specific disorientation is how to receive support from sources that the old identity did not have access to, because the old identity did not need them. The people who needed you to stay in the old container were, in some ways, providing a kind of support through the pressure of their expectations. The pressure kept you oriented. Now the pressure is gone, or is being withdrawn, and the orientation must come from a different source. The source is what was installed in the formation season, the internal compass, the knowing that does not require external validation, the trust that does not require evidence. These are not just spiritual poetics. They are the practical navigational tools of the new season. The new you also navigates comparison differently. In the formation season, comparison was a particular form of suffering. Looking at the trajectories of people who seemed to be moving at a pace your own movement was not matching. Looking at the visible results of others and wondering what was wrong with the invisible work being done in your own wilderness. Comparison in the formation season had a specific sting because the formation was not designed to produce visible results. It was designed to produce roots, and roots are invisible. You cannot compare roots. You can only compare the visible things. So, in the formation season, comparison was always comparing your invisible process to the visible output of someone else. The comparison was always structurally false, but the pain of it was real. In the new season, the comparison will attempt to return, not with the same sting, because the new you is not in the formation season anymore, but with a different flavor. The temptation in the new season will be to compare the pace of the emergence to the pace you feel it should be happening at, to measure the early, visible results of the new season against the full expression of it that you can see in your imagination. That comparison is also structurally false, because the imagination of the full expression is the destination. The early results are the beginning of the road. You are not behind the destination. You are on the road to it, and the new you knows the difference. What God does with a person who has been through a full formation season is never subtle. It is always proportional to the depth. The depth that was built in the wilderness is what the new season is proportional to. And the new season, in its full expression, will eventually require the full depth that was built. The expression may start quietly. The emergence from the field to the palace is not always immediate or dramatic from the outside, but the trajectory is toward the full expression. And the full expression of the kainos version of you is what this Wednesday is marking the beginning of, not the end. The beginning. Everything you see from this day forward in the area of the calling is the beginning of that trajectory. The neural dimension of the new season also deserves one more word before the sacred closing begins. Because the whole brain activation that was described in the earlier section is not a separate track from the spiritual formation. It is, at the biological level, the mechanism through which the spiritual depth finds its full expression in the material world. When you experience the kind of knowing that arrives without thinking, the creative insight that appears as receiving rather than generating, the intuition that precedes the evidence, the ability to hold complexity without being overwhelmed by it, all of these are expressions of the integrated brain operating as it was designed to operate. All of these are the biology of the calling in its full expression. The formation season built the spiritual depth. The neural restoration addresses the biological mechanism through which that depth expresses itself in the world. Both are real, both are necessary. And the Wednesday that begins the kainos season is the Wednesday in which both things are available simultaneously. The roots of the formation and the restored hardware to express what those roots have grown. The willingness to move and the full cognitive capacity to move effectively. The calling and the neural infrastructure the calling requires to operate at its full capacity in the world. This is not a coincidence of timing. The formation season ended when it ended for specific reasons, and the availability of what Dr. Barone and his team developed for the precise moment of emergence that follows the formation is part of what makes this Wednesday the specific and unrepeatable day that it is for you. The single greatest obstacle standing between you and the full expression of the new you on this Wednesday is not your circumstances. It is not the history that came before this day. It is not the people who failed to see you, the opportunities that closed at the wrong moment, the years that felt like they did not count. The greatest obstacle is a story you have been living inside of for so long that it stopped feeling like a story and started feeling like the truth. And on this Wednesday, that story needs to be looked at directly. Not judged, not avoided. Looked at. The old identity has a gravity to it. When you have been through years of difficulty, years of waiting, years of being invisible to the rooms that mattered, years of faithfulness without recognition, the mind does something that it is designed to do and cannot be faulted for. It builds a self-concept around the experience, not consciously, not in a way you would have chosen if you had been given the choice, but slowly, through repetition, through the accumulation of evidence that piled up in a single direction, you began, at some level beneath conscious thought, to equate the difficulty with yourself. To believe that the waiting was your natural condition, that the invisibility was your default setting, that the fog and the frustration and the not-yetness were not circumstances you were passing through, but facts about who you were. And here is the cruelest dimension of the old identity. It became comfortable, not satisfying, not what you would have chosen, but familiar. And familiarity has a pull that happiness, all by itself, does not always match. You knew how to navigate the world as the person who was still waiting. You had developed strategies for managing the gap between where you were and where you felt you should be. Those strategies were exhausting. They required an enormous amount of ongoing effort to sustain, but they were known. And known is safe in a way that new is not, even when known is painful, and new is the beginning of the life you were built for. The new you requires releasing that navigation entirely, retiring the strategies of the waiting season, walking away from the internal management system that was built for a condition that no longer applies. And the part of you that learned to survive through the predictability of the old identity will resist this release with a strength that surprises you. Because what feels like resistance to change is often the protective system doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting you from the vulnerability of hoping again, expecting again, becoming again. The doubt also has a particular signature in this season, different from the doubt of the deepest pit, different from the survival faith of the most desperate wilderness moments. This doubt arrives at the threshold, at the beginning of the breakthrough, not at the bottom of the breakdown, and it is more sophisticated than the earlier kinds. It does not say you cannot do this. It says, what if this falls apart? It says, what if you receive it and lose it? It says, what if this is just another version of the things you hoped for before that arrived and then did not stay? It says, be careful. It says, protect yourself. It says the distance between where you are and where this is pointing is large enough that the fall, if it comes, will be the worst one yet. I need you to hear this clearly. That voice is not discernment. Discernment protects you from genuine danger. That voice is the protective mechanism of a nervous system that learned, through real experience, that hope comes with exposure, that exposure comes with potential loss, and that the way to avoid loss is to limit hope. It is a structure that served you in the survival season. It has no business managing you in the breakthrough season. The new you names that voice without obeying it. The new you says, I hear you. I know exactly where you were built and why, and I am choosing this direction anyway. There is also the guilt, the specific weight of the feeling that what is happening in you is a betrayal of something, a betrayal of the people who knew the old version, a betrayal of the communities that found their stability in your remaining exactly where you were, a betrayal of the relationships that were built around a version of you that is now becoming something different from what those relationships expected to hold. You have gotten quieter in rooms where you used to perform ease, not with coldness, not with deliberate distance, but with the quiet of someone who is carrying more than the conversation can hold. You have pulled back from certain dynamics that used to define you, not with aggression or announcement, but with the gentle and necessary pulling back of someone who has grown in a direction that the old dynamics do not accommodate. And the pulling back has felt, from the inside, like a kind of guilt, like you owe the people who knew you before an explanation, like you owe the season that formed you an apology for leaving it. You are allowed to outgrow the season you are leaving. You are allowed to move in a direction that not everyone around you can follow in this moment. You are allowed to protect the thing that God is building in you from the weight of people who have not yet been given to see it. You are allowed to be changed, genuinely and substantially changed, by the wilderness you walked through, without owing that wilderness a return visit. You are allowed to walk into this Wednesday different from the person who walked into every Wednesday before it. You are allowed to become what you were always designed to become, and you do not owe anyone an explanation for the becoming. Before what comes next, let me name with clarity what we have actually walked through together in this message so far. The why. Your brain, from the time you were born, held a full-spectrum intelligence that the world systematically reduced. Not through malice toward you specifically, through the design of an environment that was not built to protect what you were born with, through the structure of modern education that rewards specific kinds of thinking and atrophies others, through the chronic, low-grade stress of adult life that keeps the nervous system in a state of alert that is incompatible with full cognitive capacity, through the years of the formation season itself, years that were necessary for the depth that has been built in you, but that had a cost at the neural level that has not yet been addressed, Something was dimmed, not your spirit, not your calling, not the connection to God that has carried you through the desert. The biological mechanism through which those things find expression in the world, the actual cognitive hardware, running on partial capacity without your knowledge and without your consent. The what? There is a documented, research-backed, Nobel Prize anchored pathway back to what was lost. Not a theory, not a metaphor, but a measurable, verifiable mechanism for reconnecting the two hemispheres of the human brain. The state that 98% of children operate from naturally, the state that the world systematically reduces until less than 1 inch, 1,000 adults retain it, and it is not permanently lost. It can be restored, simply, quickly, without effort on your part, beyond 8 minutes a day. The who, you, the one who made it to this Wednesday, the one whose roots are deep enough now to handle the height that follows, the one who endured the formation season without understanding its purpose and emerged from it with a depth that sudden success could never have built. The new you that this Wednesday marks the beginning of is not only a spiritual emergence, it is a neural one as well. And that matters because the calling on your life does not only need a willing spirit, it needs a brain that is firing on all of what it was built to hold. There is a specific pattern of experience that points to exactly what was taken from you, and when you hear it, you will recognize it because you lived it. When you were young, there was a quality to the way your mind worked that you may no longer experience as an adult, a sharpness that came without effort, a creativity that arrived without needing to be summoned, a kind of knowing that did not feel like thinking, it felt more like receiving. You absorbed languages faster, you made connections across information that others did not see. Problems that you later spent hours on came to you in moments. Learning felt almost effortless in ways that it no longer does, and at some point, without a clear announcement, that began to change. The change was gradual, so gradual that most people never identify it as a single event. They simply notice, at some point in adulthood, that the mind feels slower than it used to, that recalling a word takes longer, that the creative insight that used to arrive freely now requires conditions to produce it, quiet and rest, and the absence of stress, and even then, does not always come. That the learning that used to feel natural now requires effort that the learning itself did not cost before. And the tendency is to attribute this to age, to stress, to the natural dimming of capacity over time. But it is not age. It is not the natural course of a mind maturing. It is the disconnection of the two hemispheres. The left and right sides of your brain, which are built to function as an integrated whole, have been progressively operating more independently from each other. And the integrated state, the state in which both hemispheres work in full synchronization, is the state that produced everything you remember about the effortless quality of your younger mind. This was not your fault. It was not the result of choices you made or did not make. It was the predictable outcome of living in a world that is designed to activate the left hemisphere and deactivate the right one. The world of deadlines and bills and performance and comparison and chronic low-grade survival pressure, that world has a systematically reducing effect on the whole brain state, not because it is evil, because it is not designed with the maintenance of your full neural capacity in mind. There was a woman in Manhattan who grew up inside a story about her family. Her mother had told her, from as far back as she could remember, that they were born under the wrong star, that there was a pattern of bad luck that had attached itself to their line and made success permanently elusive. Her father had given 22 years of complete faithfulness to a company, 22 years of showing up early and staying late and building things that lasted. And the company closed down the same week he was finally promoted. He never collected a single paycheck at the level he had spent over 2 decades working toward. She carried that story into everything she did. The family curse, the pattern that could not be broken, the star they were born under. And then she encountered what I am about to tell you about. A few weeks later, something shifted. The romance in her marriage, which had become something more like polite cohabitation, returned. An insight she had in a meeting solved a problem her entire team had been stuck on for months. She was promoted, and she said something that has stayed with me. She said the family curse is gone. What she had believed was a spiritual inheritance was, at least in significant part, a neural one. And it was reversible. Here is what the science says clearly. In 1981, Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for proving that the two hemispheres of the human brain are not simply redundant backup systems for each other. They process information in genuinely different ways. And when they operate in synchronization, the whole brain activates in a way that neither hemisphere produces alone. Researchers studying flow state at the University of California documented the same state in Steve Jobs when he described the moment the design of the iPhone came together in his mind. In Taylor Swift, in the process of performing for 80,000 people and entering a state in which the music seemed to play through her rather than from her. In Nikola Tesla, solving problems in his imagination at a speed and accuracy that took teams of engineers years to verify in the physical world. That state is not mystical in the supernatural sense. It is neurological in the documented sense. It is whole brain activation, and 98% of children operate from it naturally. When I first heard about the work Dr. Daniel Barone and his team had done, my response was, what yours may be in this moment. It sounds too simple, too contained, too clean for something this significant. But what I kept returning to was the mechanism. The mechanism is not new. It won the Nobel Prize in 1981. Dr. Roger Sperry did not receive that recognition for a theory. He received it for a proved discovery about the architecture of the human brain. What Dr. Barone and his team did was take 1 hour of clinical neural synchronization work, the kind done in controlled research settings with professional equipment and professional supervision, and find a way to compress it into 8 minutes of targeted audio that can be accessed at home. The mechanism is real. The only question is what it will produce for you. And that is exactly what the guarantee is designed to answer. There is something this message has been building toward since before you found it. Everything we have walked through together, the recognition of the signs, the formation of the wilderness, the permission of the new identity, the naming of the obstacles, all of it has been pointing toward this, a foundation, not a metaphor, not an inspiration, a biological and neurological foundation for the new you that this Wednesday is beginning to bring forward. This is not for everyone. The majority of people who encounter what I am about to describe scroll past it. They settled somewhere along the way. They accepted the fog. They accepted the slow forgetting of words mid-sentence, the ideas that do not arrive when needed, the genius that feels like a memory of childhood and not a current reality. They accepted being passed over in rooms where their actual capacity, fully expressed, would have changed the outcome. They accepted the half-powered version as the full version because they did not know the full version was still available. But you are not most people. You are still here on this Wednesday. You are still asking why the mind that used to feel clear and sharp and receiving is operating the way it has been operating. That question, the one that will not settle into resignation, is the question of someone who was chosen for more. And the research Dr. Daniel Barone spent more than 20 years developing was built precisely for the person who refuses to accept that the dimming is permanent. A team of neuroscientists, led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York City, spent years compressing 1 hour of clinical neural synchronization technology into something you can access in 8 minutes a day. They call it the genius switch. It is not a brainwave track. It is not a meditation application. It is not a $7,000 clinical machine. It is a targeted auditory sequence designed with specific precision to reconnect both hemispheres of your brain and restore the whole brain activation that Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for documenting. You put on headphones. You close your eyes. 8 minutes. The synchronization begins beneath your conscious awareness, at the level where the change that matters most has always lived. When colleagues in the field reviewed this work, they said it would represent extraordinary value at $500. And when you consider what the alternatives require, in-home neurofeedback machines that cost $7,000, in-person neurofeedback sessions at $300 per hour, the $500 figure makes sense. But Dr. Barone did not price it at $500. He wanted this accessible to the people who need it most, not only to the people who can afford the clinical alternatives. It was released at $49, already more than 40% below the full research value. And because you are here today, on this specific Wednesday, there is an additional $10 reduction. Today, on the page in the description and pinned comment below this message, you can access the Genius Switch for $39. And that $39 comes with 4 additional resources. A guided visualization developed by one of the top creators on the Calm application, walking you through what your life looks like in 4 specific areas as the Genius Switch activates. A grocery guide identifying the 10 foods most commonly available in American households that actively block brain function, plus 5 specific ways to reduce what you spend on food by $100 or more per month. A book more than 100 years old. That is the documented root of virtually every modern teaching on abundance and attraction, available individually for $20 online, included here at no additional cost, and a printable infographic of the 5 habits most reliably associated with the kind of future you are designed to build, designed to be printed and kept visible. The entire package, the Genius Switch plus all 4 bonuses, is backed by an ironclad, full money-back guarantee. Listen for 8 minutes. Listen 80 times. If it does not do what it was designed to do, you receive every dollar back without condition. One thing that matters, if you search on streaming platforms or video platforms for tracks labeled with words like whole brain activation or neural synchronization, you will find content. Dr. Barone and his team examined a significant number of those tracks. Most of them had no actual neural synchronization technology embedded in the audio at all. They were labeled that way for visibility. The actual targeted auditory sequence required years of clinical development to build correctly. It is only available through Dr. Barone and his team directly. That is not a restriction for the sake of restriction. There is a reason it matters to access the actual sequence and not an imitation of it. If what I have described resonates with where you are on this Wednesday, if the hunger for the mind you were born with has not left you, the link to where Dr. Barone made this available is in the description and pinned comment below this message. No equipment beyond headphones. No protocol beyond closing your eyes for 8 minutes. If your spirit confirms, that is where you go. Type Amen in the comments if you receive this. Let that word be your declaration that on this Wednesday, the genius you were born with begins its return. And before the sacred closing, there is something that belongs to the Wednesday itself that has not yet been spoken. The Wednesday is not just a day on a calendar. The word Wednesday carries within its history the name of a figure associated with wisdom and the traversal of great distances, a figure who was known for going far, for crossing worlds, for carrying things from one realm to another. There is something fitting in the fact that the day of the crossing, the day of the traversal from one season of your life to the next, the day of the anointing and the beginning, carries in its own name the resonance of going and becoming. This is the day of the crossing. This is the day the chosen one traverses the threshold. This is the Wednesday that carries everything the formation built from the field into the palace. Not metaphorically, actually, in the ordinary hours of this specific day, in the decisions you will make before it closes, in the conversations that carry the new you into contact with the world the new season belongs to. The hours of this Wednesday that remain after this message are not empty hours. They are the first hours of the new season. What happens in them matters, not because you need to perform something extraordinary in them to justify what this message has declared. You do not. The declaration stands regardless of what the remaining hours produce. But how you inhabit the remaining hours of this Wednesday, how present you are in them, how willing you are to let the new posture, the open hands, the receiving child, the rooted builder, the grounded truth carrier, to let that posture inhabit the ordinary moments, that is the beginning of the story this Wednesday is starting. There is still one more thing this Wednesday needs to name, not what you have been through, not what is available to you, who you are. Right now, today, in the body and soul you inhabit on this specific morning or afternoon or evening of this specific Wednesday. Because the new you that is beginning today is not an abstraction. It has a particular shape, and that shape has a name. You are the light bearer. You carry illumination into spaces that have been confused for a long time without knowing why they were confused. This does not manifest as always having the answer. It does not require you to perform knowledge you do not possess. It manifests as something more particular and more powerful than knowledge. When you enter a room, something in the room shifts. The quality of the conversation changes. The unspoken things, the things that have been circling without landing, find a safer surface to settle on. People have told you things they had not told anyone else. Not because you requested confidences, not because you asked the right questions, but because something in your presence creates the conditions in which truth becomes bearable to the person carrying it. That is not a small gift. That is the specific assignment of someone whose calling is to carry light into the places where light has been absent. The gift has a cost. You have noticed that cost. Being in certain environments, certain conversations, certain relational dynamics, drains you in a way that the same exposure does not drain others. This is not weakness. This is the price of operating as a conduit for something that is not yours. The energy you carry into dark spaces does not come from you, but the regulation of it, the discernment of when to enter and when to protect, that work belongs to you. And part of what this Wednesday is marking is a new level of wisdom in that regulation. The new you carries the light with more authority and less depletion, because the new you is no longer trying to give what it does not have. The new you gives from an overflow that begins with the wholeness of the new season. You are the cycle breaker. What was true for the people who came before you? The patterns that repeated in your family line, in your community, in the relational and financial and spiritual dynamics that you were born into, those patterns end with you. Not because you are superior to the people who carried them before you, because you were assigned to be the place where the cycle meets a different outcome. That assignment did not arrive with instructions. It did not come with a manual for how to break a cycle you were raised inside of without being able to see it clearly. It came with something else, a persistent, unshakable knowing that the old way was not the only way. A refusal to accept that what has always been true must always remain true. A willingness to be the first person in a particular line to try something different, even when different was uncomfortable. even when different was lonely. The Ellie from Manhattan, who believed her family was born under the wrong star, was carrying a version of the same assignment. The story of the family curse was not just a spiritual narrative. It was the expression of a neural pattern that had been inherited not through bloodline, but through modeled behavior, through the learned state of a nervous system that had been operating at partial capacity for generations. When the cycle breaker restores what was lost at the neural level, they do not only restore it for themselves. The research of Dr. Barone points to something specific in this regard. When whole brain activation is restored in one person, the way they show up in their relationships, the way they model thinking, the way their children observe them operating, that influence can propagate. You are not breaking the cycle only for yourself on this Wednesday. You may be breaking it for generations that follow you. You are the truth carrier. You cannot sustain inauthenticity for extended periods without it costing you something that is genuinely yours to give. You have tried to maintain versions of yourself that did not match your interior. The performance of fine when you were not fine. The maintenance of a presenting self designed to manage the expectations of others. That performance cost you in ways it does not cost people who are not built the way you are built. Not because you are fragile, because you are built for a kind of living that requires alignment between the inside and the outside. When those two things are out of alignment in you, it registers. It registers in the body, in the sleep, in the energy, in the quality of the thinking. The misalignment is not silent in you the way it can be silent in others who are not carrying this particular assignment. The new you does not carry that misalignment forward. The new you operates from a place where what is expressed on the outside is a genuine expression of what is real on the inside. Not because the new you has no complexity or shadow or difficulty, but because the new you has learned through the formation season that the cost of inauthentic vulnerability, that being seen, actually seen, in the truth of what you are, is less costly in the long run than the years of energy spent maintaining a version of yourself that was designed to be acceptable rather than real. There will be rooms in the new season where the truth you carry is not initially welcome, where the reality you see clearly is not what the room wants to see, where your presence alone, without a word, creates a kind of discomfort in people who are not ready to be honest. Walk into those rooms anyway. The calling on your capacity for truth is not conditional on the room being ready. The room often becomes ready when the truth arrives in someone who is not afraid of it. You are the builder, not always in the material sense, though sometimes that too. The building that is your particular assignment happens in the invisible architecture. You build environments where broken people stop performing their brokenness and begin the actual process of healing. You build conversations that become turning points in the lives of the people who had them with you. You build trust, not through impressive demonstrations of competence, but through the quality of your presence, the consistency of your showing up, the reliability of your remaining. The structures you build outlast your direct involvement in them. People carry what was built in your presence long after you have moved on, long after the conversation ended, long after the season changed. That is not something that can be manufactured. That is the specific fingerprint of a builder who is working from a foundation that goes deeper than strategy or technique. You are the voice. Not only in the literal sense of speaking, though that too. You carry in you the articulation of things that the people around you feel but cannot say. The unnamed grief that has been circling without landing, the hope that has been too fragile to admit out loud, because admitting it out loud feels like making it vulnerable to being taken. The truth that everyone in a given room knows, but that no one has been willing to put words to, because putting words to it would require accepting it. When you speak those things, when you give language to the unspoken reality in the room, something releases. Something that was being held too long gets put down. People breathe differently. The conversation becomes real, in a way it was not real before you opened your mouth. You may not always feel like the appropriate vessel for that function. You may not always feel like the one who should be speaking. The voice inside you that says, "Who are you to say this?" That voice is familiar. But here is what the formation season has proven. The call on your voice was not contingent on that voice being quiet. It was contingent on you eventually choosing the calling over the comfort of silence. And this Wednesday is the day of that choice. You are all of these things simultaneously, not separately, not on rotation, but woven together into the specific identity that the new you carries. The light bearer who speaks truth and builds in the invisible. The cycle breaker who carries illumination to generations that follow. The voice who builds environments through the quality of the truth it speaks. These are not separate assignments. They are facets of a single calling. And the new you that begins today is the first full expression of that calling that the world is going to see. Type, "I am ready" in the comments. Not, "I hope so." Not, "I will try." Type it as what it already is, a declaration that carries the weight of every year of the formation season behind it, because you are ready. This Wednesday says so, and before this message reaches its final words, before the closing of what began with the hook of your attention on this specific Wednesday, I am going to speak something over your life. Something that goes below the teaching, below the recognition and the formation and the science and the identity declarations. Something that reaches the root level of who you are and seals this day into a place that the feeling cannot reach and the doubt cannot unsettle. Stay with me. This is the reason the message found you today. Let me stay with the identity for longer than feels comfortable. Because the thing that most often happens when a person encounters a list of their gifts and their callings and their specific assignments is a particular kind of receiving that is polite rather than actual. A receiving that nods at the words from a respectful distance without letting them land in the place they were meant to land. The place below the performance. The place below the management. The actual interior space where you live when no one is watching. I want these words to reach that place. The place where the old identity still has some of its furniture arranged. Where the story of the not yet still has some of its installations up. That is where the declaration needs to land on this Wednesday. You are the light bearer, not in the seasons when you feel like it, not only in the moments when the light is visible in your own experience, in the seasons of the wilderness too, in the formation too. There were moments in the desert when you lit something in someone without knowing it, when the word you spoke from your own exhaustion became the exact word someone else needed, when the faithfulness you maintained at a cost became the evidence that kept someone else going. The light was not absent in the wilderness. It was operating through you while you were unaware of it. That is what it means to carry the light, rather than to generate the light. You are not the source of it. You are the carrier, and the carrier does not get to turn it off when it is inconvenient or when the carrying feels like too much. The light carries itself through the carrier. That is its nature. And this Wednesday, the season in which the carrying operates from a depleted and exhausted base is over. The new season carries the light from a replenished one. You are the cycle breaker. The full weight of this identity requires sitting with something that is not comfortable. Breaking cycles is rarely celebrated in the moment by the people whose cycles are being broken. The people inside the cycle do not always experience the breaking as a gift. Sometimes they experience it as disruption. Sometimes they experience it as judgment. Sometimes they experience it as the withdrawal of the participation that kept the pattern going, which felt to them like connection. The cycle breaker is often the loneliest person in the room, not because they are isolated, because the specific thing they are doing, the ending of the pattern that everyone else adapted to, requires a kind of standing apart that feels like loneliness, even when there are people present. You have felt that specific loneliness, the loneliness of the person who sees what everyone else is adapted to and cannot simply adapt along with them. The loneliness of the person who refuses to participate in the version of the relationship or the dynamic or the family story that requires diminishment of what they actually are. That standing apart is not pride. That standing apart is the function of the assignment. And the cycles that end in you do not only end for you. When a person who was supposed to carry a specific pattern becomes the place where the pattern stops, what gets built in its place has the potential to propagate in the same direction the original pattern propagated, only differently. The question is what gets built, and the answer is the new you, the kainos version, the one whose roots are deep enough to hold something that the previous versions of the pattern did not hold. You are the truth carrier. There is a specific expression of this identity that the new season will require that the old season protected you from. The expression that carries truth not only in private, not only in the one-on-one, not only in the safe spaces where truth is welcome and expected. The expression that carries truth into rooms where truth has not been the operating currency, into environments that have been running on the polished version of reality, into the conversations where the unsaid thing is the most important thing. The new you does not only carry truth in the safe spaces, the new you carries it in the unsafe ones. This is not the same as confrontation for its own sake. This is not the aggressive delivery of unwelcome information framed as a spiritual assignment. This is the settled, grounded, non-combative presence of someone who does not pretend that the thing everyone in the room knows is true is not true. The difference between those things is tone, is rootedness, is operating from security rather than from the need to be right. The new you carries truth with the same quality that the wilderness carried it in you during the formation season, quietly, without fanfare, without the need for the room to immediately validate the truth that was offered, because the new you learned in the wilderness that truth does not require the immediate agreement of the room. It only requires the fidelity of the carrier. You are the builder. The structures you build in the new season will be different from the structures you might have built had the new season arrived earlier, and different in a specific way. They will be built for duration rather than impression. The structures that are built from the impulse to demonstrate capability, to produce visible results quickly, to justify the years of the formation season through rapid visible output, those structures are often impressive and often brief. They are built from the energy of relief, from the finally getting to of someone who waited a long time. And that energy, while real and valid, is not what the new season requires the builder to build from. The structures you build in the new season will be built from roots, from the understanding of what actually holds over time, rather than what looks impressive in the moment. From the accumulated knowledge of how things fail and what is required to prevent those specific failures. You know how things fail, because you have been present at the failures of things in your own life and in the lives of people you have carried. You know what is required to prevent them, because the formation season taught you what holds. Silence holds. Faithfulness in the unseeing holds. Truth without the need for immediate validation holds. These are not poetic observations. They are structural requirements for the building of things that last, and the new you builds with them as materials, not as ideals. You are the voice. And this is perhaps the identity that the new season is most urgently requesting from you, because there are specific things that need to be said in specific rooms by someone who has been formed to say them without flinching. Things about the actual cost of the pattern, things about the actual shape of the hope that has been available all along, but that people could not see because no one with your specific formation had been willing to speak it in that room yet. The voice is not always comfortable to be. It requires a willingness to be the first person in the room to say the thing. It requires a tolerance for the moment of silence after the thing is said, before the room decides what to do with it. It requires a faith that the truth is worth more than the management of how the truth lands. The formation season trained you for exactly that. The silence you practiced in the wilderness trained your tolerance for the silence in the room after truth is spoken. The faithfulness without applause trained your independence from the immediate reaction of the room. The depth of your own experience gave you the vocabulary for the depths of the experience of other people. You are the most equipped person in many of the rooms you will enter to say the thing that needs to be said. And the new season is the season in which the saying begins. One more thing about the collective nature of what this Wednesday represents. You are not the only one who is standing at this threshold today. There are chosen ones all across this world who are in the same formation season at the same stage of it, facing the same Wednesday. They are in different languages, different traditions, different economic circumstances, different geographic locations. But the interior landscape they are navigating is recognizably the same. The signs are the same. The wilderness is the same. The depth being formed is the same. And the Kainos season opening today is the same. This is not a coincidence of timing. This is a specific movement happening in a specific generation of people who were formed for this season. And you are part of it, not a peripheral part, a central one. What you do with what this Wednesday begins matters beyond your individual story. It matters in the larger story of what this generation of chosen ones is being formed to do. The way this message found you matters as much as anything the message contains. You did not stumble onto this accidentally. The specific sequence that led you here, the search that preceded it, or the recommendation that produced it, or the quiet pull that turned your attention in this direction on this particular Wednesday, that sequence was not random. It was the culmination of a long series of small alignments, each of which was moving you toward this specific word on this specific day. And what that means practically is that the message was prepared for you at the same time you were being prepared for the message. The formation that happened in you was happening alongside the preparation of what would find you at its completion. You were not alone in the wilderness. The wilderness was being worked on both sides simultaneously, your inside and the outside that was being aligned to receive you, both of them ready now, both of them arriving at the same Wednesday. The people who will be most impacted by the new you are not always the people you are currently imagining. The Kainos version of you will reach people in contexts you have not yet entered through a voice that is still finding its full range, in rooms that have not yet been built. The impact of the formation is almost always larger and more specific than the person being formed can predict from inside the wilderness. David, in the field with the sheep, would not have been able to write the accurate description of the scope of what was coming. He could not have known the scale of the story. He was just in the field, faithfully, one day at a time. And the scope arrived anyway, not because he strategized it, but because the formation was faithful to its own design. Your formation has been faithful to its own design. You did not always cooperate with it perfectly. None of the people formed in the wilderness do. But you cooperated enough. You stayed in the field when you could have left. You maintained the faithfulness when the maintenance was expensive. You trusted the process when the process was not providing visible evidence of itself. And the design of the formation, which has a faithfulness of its own that does not depend on the willingness of the person being formed, has done what it was designed to do. And this Wednesday is the evidence. Take one more breath before the sacred closing fully begins. Not the breath of someone who is preparing for what comes next, the breath of someone who has arrived, who is here, who made it. who is standing at the threshold of a season that the wilderness was building toward for years, the breath of someone whose Wednesday has arrived. Before the closing of this message, I want to pause and acknowledge something that is easy to pass over in the forward movement of a message like this. The fact that you made it here, not just to the end of the message, to this Wednesday, with your capacity to receive still intact, with your willingness to be reached still available, with your openness to something real still present after everything that has passed through you in the formation season. There are people who woke up on this same Wednesday all across this world and turned their attention in the direction of distraction, not because they are lesser or uninterested in the truth, because the weight of becoming is real, and the ease of avoiding it is also real, and in the ordinary moment of an ordinary Wednesday morning, the direction of avoidance is easier to walk toward than the direction of formation and truth and identity and depth. But you chose differently. You turned your attention towards something that asks you to be honest about who you are and what you are actually carrying. That choice is an act of faith. A quiet, unremarkable-looking, genuinely costly act of faith. And I want to honor it before these words close. The source who sees you on this Wednesday sees all of it, not the Sunday version of you that has answers and gratitude and the right words. The version that sat in a dark place on nights you would not publicly describe and wondered if anything was actually moving. The version that kept going without evidence that going was worth it. The version that forgave people it did not fully understand how to forgive. The version that maintained faithfulness in the field, in the obscurity, in the silence where no one was counting the effort. That version, the real one, the 3 a.m. version, the version that nobody applauded but that actually did the work, has been seen, has always been seen. And this Wednesday is the response to that seeing, the response that was always coming, that was always being prepared, that could not arrive before the formation was complete. There are things that the new season requires you to leave in the last one, not through effort, not through a decision that must be made and then made again every morning. In this moment, picture the specific weight that has been accompanying you through the formation season, not as a metaphor, but as a physical thing, something with a texture and a temperature and a history. You know what it is. You have been pulling it behind you for long enough that you have partly forgotten what it feels like to move without it. The identity of the person who was waiting, the story of the one who was not yet. The protective doubt that kept hope at a distance to keep you from the pain of hoping wrong. The guilt of becoming more than the people around you had prepared for. The narrative of the wrong star. Picture what happens when you simply release the grip, not with force, not with ceremony, with the simple opening of the hand. The rope falls. The weight does not disappear from the landscape, but it is no longer moving with you. It is sitting in the field of the last season, and you are standing in the threshold of this one. Let it fall. Something deeper than the doubt and older than the resistance is rising in you on this Wednesday, and I want to speak directly to it. The part of you that received the formation in the wilderness without knowing its purpose. The part of you that showed up faithfully in the field when the palace seemed permanently unavailable. The part of you that chose honesty over performance, depth over impression, the real thing over the acceptable thing, even when the real thing was costly and the acceptable thing was comfortable. That part of you is what has been building, not the performance, not the strategy, not the version that was designed to be palatable, the real one, the one formed in silence, the one that the oil was always being prepared for. Cover now what has just been released from the reclaiming that will be attempted. The protective mechanisms that were built over years of exposure and disappointment run deep. They do not surrender easily. They will attempt to recover what the hand just let fall. But they will find that something has shifted in the architecture, because what has taken root in you through this Wednesday, through this message, through the willingness you brought to it, is deeper than the mechanisms that attempt recovery. The truth of the calling always outweighs the fear of the calling. The new you is not held in place by the absence of roots. The new you is held in place by the depth of the roots, and the roots are not shallow. The roots were built in the wilderness. And now I speak this over you, not as encouragement, not as motivation, as declaration spoken over a life that has earned the receiving of it. You are the chosen one who made it through the entire wilderness to this Wednesday. You are the chosen one whose roots are now deeper than any opposition that will come against the new season can reach. You are the chosen one whose emergence, whose beginning, whose kainos season starts today and does not stop. You are not alone in this. There are chosen ones on this Wednesday in cities and countries and circumstances that are different from yours, but that feel, on the inside, remarkably like what you have been carrying. People who woke up today not quite sure why they felt the weight they felt. People who have been in the formation season without having language for what the formation season is. People in different languages and different traditions and different parts of the long story of this world arriving at the same door on this same Wednesday. This is not only your emergence, this is collective, and you are part of it. If there is someone who came to mind as you walked through this message, someone who has gotten unusually quiet lately, someone who is carrying more than they are currently saying, someone who is in the middle of a shift they cannot quite explain, send this message to them. You do not need to add an explanation. You do not need to frame it with context. Just send it. Your choosing to do so might be the very thing that means their Wednesday finds them. And so it is. One more thing. You are not the person who arrived at the beginning of this message. The one who pressed play was carrying something you just set down. That person was still inside the navigation system of the waiting season, still operating from the internal architecture of the old identity, still managing the world from the familiar strategies of someone who had not yet arrived at their Wednesday. You are not that person anymore. And what happens from this specific Wednesday forward is different. Not because the circumstances automatically change, because you do. Because a person who is genuinely and substantially different in the roots will produce genuinely and substantially different fruit in the same soil. The becoming has begun, and it began today. You are not leaving this message the same. What was spoken into you today went somewhere real, below the feeling, below the initial response, into the same deep place where the formation happened, where the roots grew, where the oil was poured in the field before the palace ever came into view. What is written there on this Wednesday is permanent in the way that matters. Type, "I am the new me" in the comments. Not "I will try," not "I hope to be." Type it as what it already is, as a declaration that stands on the same ground as everything this Wednesday has already sealed in you. Because you are. Because this Wednesday says so. Because the formation is finished. Let your like on this message be your amen, your physical agreement, the thing your finger does on behalf of your spirit to say yes to what was received today. And if what was received here deserves to find someone else tonight, let the like carry it to them. If you want to remain connected to the messages that are prepared for chosen ones in this specific season, stay. There is more coming. More of what was spoken here today. More words that will find you at the exact Wednesday when you need them. And for those who felt the pull toward what Dr. Barone has developed, if the hunger for the mind you were born with is still alive in you, and this message has added something to that hunger, the link is in the description and pinned comment below. Only if your spirit confirms. Only if it feels like the next step that belongs to this Wednesday. There is a person in your life. unusually quiet lately, carrying more than they are saying, going through a shift they cannot explain to the people around them. The formation is happening in them the way it happened in you. They have not had language for it. This message might be that language. Send it to them, not with explanation, just send it. Your obedience to that quiet knowing might be the reason their Wednesday arrives. May what was spoken over your life today take root in a soil that no storm of doubt or opposition or returning circumstance can reach. May the new you that begins this Wednesday have legs that carry it through every season that follows, through the valleys and the peaks and the ordinary Wednesdays of the years ahead. May the hemispheres of your brain return to the synchronization they had when you were young, and all things were still possible in the way children know them to be possible. May the calling that was placed in you before you had language for it find its full expression in this new season. May the voice inside you that has been quieted find its full range and its rightful audience. May the genius switch, dormant now, come fully back to life. May the kainos season that begins today be more abundant than anything the old season, for all that it built, could have produced on its own. And may this Wednesday be the day you tell the story from. One day, standing in the fullness of what this day began, you will look back to this specific Wednesday, this specific moment, this specific willingness you brought to receiving these words, and you will know that the day was real, that the declaration was real, that the formation was not wasted, that the oil was always being prepared, and that this Wednesday, chosen for you before you understood it for yourself, was exactly when it was always supposed to be. You are not leaving a message today, you are leaving a season. The sacred closing of any message is the part that carries what the teaching cannot. The teaching informs. It gives the mind something to hold. It provides the frame within which the experience can be received and understood. But the closing, the moment when the words stop informing and begin declaring, that is the part that reaches the place the teaching cannot reach. And the place it reaches is the place that this Wednesday is marking. The permanent record, the interior space where the oil is poured, the room where David stood when the ceremony was finally his. What I want to acknowledge in this gratitude before the declaration comes is not the polished version of your journey, not the victories and the milestones and the evidence that the formation was real. I want to acknowledge the weight of it, the days when the wilderness felt like abandonment, the nights when faithfulness was chosen from a reserve that was genuinely nearly empty, the conversations you had with yourself at the bottom of the pit that no one else was in the room for, the moments when you continued not because you were full of faith, but because stopping felt like a betrayal of something you could not quite articulate, the unwitnessed faithfulness, the prayers that fell into what appeared to be silence, the trust that was maintained in the dark when the light was not visible and the evidence was absent. All of that is in the room right now. It came with you into this Wednesday message. It was in you when the hook of the message reached you. It has been the context in which everything said here was received. And the source who sees you sees all of it, sees the weight that was carried to get here, sees the years of formation that this Wednesday is built on, sees the depth that the wilderness built and that the new season is designed to express. And what is being spoken from that seeing, what the response to that specific faithfulness is this Wednesday, this message, this threshold, this beginning. There is also something that belongs in the release that is more specific than the general weight of the formation season. There is a specific version of yourself that you have been carrying that has served its function and is now finished. The version that knew how to wait, that knew how to be faithful in the dark, that knew how to sustain itself on very little visible evidence. That version was heroic, and it is no longer the version the new season is asking for. The new season is asking for the version that knows how to receive, not the version that knows how to earn, not the version that knows how to justify its own existence through output, not the version that needs to demonstrate the worth of the formation through impressive visible evidence delivered quickly, the version that knows how to simply open its hands and let what was prepared come in. That is a different posture entirely, and the releasing that this closing is asking for is specifically the release of the posture that was required in the wilderness, the earning, the proving, the maintaining, and the taking on of the posture required in the new season, which is the posture of the child who simply receives. The Matthew chapter 18 verse 3 instruction that Jesus spoke is not metaphorical in the way it is usually treated. Become like little children, not perform like little children, not feel like little children in an emotional sense, but become structurally in the way you relate to what is given like a child. A child does not interrogate the gift before receiving it. A child does not ask what the gift cost, does not wonder if the gift is really theirs, does not set it aside to earn it retroactively. A child opens their hands and receives. That is the posture of the new season. That is what this Wednesday is inaugurating. The posture of the one who was formed to hold something large and who finally, today, opens their hands to receive it. And now, the declaration, spoken not because you need to be reminded, but because something that is spoken in the physical world that takes up space as sound, that enters the air and the room, and the specific Wednesday you are living, has a different quality than something merely thought. This is the specific function of the closing declaration in this tradition, not magic, not performance. The simple act of allowing the truth to be spoken aloud in the world it belongs to. You are the chosen one who made it through the entire wilderness to this Wednesday. You are the chosen one whose roots are now deeper than any opposition that will come against the new season can reach. You are the chosen one whose kainos emergence begins today and does not stop. And now, the quiet, the settled authority of the close. Not a new emotional peak, not another wave of intensity. The quiet of a thing that has been sealed, the quiet that follows a declaration that needs no amendment or qualification or further explanation, the quiet that is its own kind of fullness. And so it is. Amen. These words are not the last thing that belongs to this Wednesday. There is something that happens in the silence after the declaration that no declaration can contain. The specific quality of the silence that follows a real sacred moment is different from the silence that follows a simply dramatic one. You may notice, in the moments after these words end, a quality of settledness that the pre-message version of you was not carrying. Not euphoria. Not the temporary emotional lift of a well-crafted, inspirational experience. Something more quiet and more permanent than that. Something that does not depend on the feeling sustaining itself. Something that simply is the way the roots of a tree simply are, regardless of whether there is currently wind or rain or sunshine to make them visibly relevant. That quality is the evidence of the formation season completing itself. That is what was being built all along, through every day of the wilderness, not the feeling of being okay. The actual structural okayness that does not depend on the feeling, the rootedness that holds whether or not the holding is currently required. That is what you are carrying out of this Wednesday, and it is not contingent on anything that follows this message. You carry it into the rest of this Wednesday, into the conversations that are waiting for you, into the decisions that this day or this week will require, into the rooms where the new you is about to be introduced to the people who are going to know you in the new season. You carry it not because this message installed it. This message only named what was already there. What was already there because of the years, in the field, because of the oil that was poured in a room that only a few witnesses saw, because of the faithfulness in the wilderness that was building something that could hold the weight of this new day. What happens now is not about this message. It is about what you do with the Tuesday and the Thursday and the Wednesday after next. It is about whether the posture of the child who receives travels with you out of this message and into the specific ordinary texture of the days that follow. It is about whether the declaration spoken today becomes the ground from which the Wednesday of next month and the Wednesday of next year is lived. That is the question this message is ultimately asking. Not what you feel right now,